what was something profound that Booker gave you as wisdom, whether it's in training or doing your in-ring stuff? What was that one piece of wisdom that he gives you?
That you can't be the best anywhere else if you're not the best in reality wrestling. It's simple. You know, we look at all the guys who got contracts that came from reality wrestling. At some point, they were either champion or they were undeniable. You know what I mean? So reality wrestling for me is a special place because iron sharpens iron here. If that makes sense. Like, I've been blessed to have some of the best vets in the world. Obviously a 2-time Hall of Famer, you know, in my back pocket to pick, you know, their brain. But the biggest thing Booker told me, my first day, the very first piece of advice he gave me, no matter, you know, all the things since then he said, the first day he met me was, look, kid, what you gonna do to separate yourself? Because you gotta be, you know, the best here before you be the best anyway. And I just had that approach every single day.
This is the second episode of the second season of Crash Course, and we have a relative newcomer, someone who's breaking into the scene. We have Quentin Wynters here on the program. How are you?
Good, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Of course. So this series, we talk about reality of wrestling as the wrestling school that's going to be highlighted. How long have you been training?
I started training August 21st, 2023, excuse me. So I gave myself a little birthday gift for my 22nd birthday. I said I'm gonna go sign up for reality wrestling, and last August made a year.
Oh, okay, awesome. And I'm sure there's wrestling schools here all over Houston, and out of all those picks, why reality?
So I'm not from Houston. I'm from Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Wow. Okay. That's
even
better.
Man. I'm from Bridgeport, Connecticut. The biggest city in Connecticut, about an hour outside of New York City. And I'm a former college basketball player. So once I got out of that transition, I knew I wanted to be a professional wrestler. I wanted to set myself up to be around the best. If that makes sense. And really just challenge myself. I didn't really do that too much with basketball. So going into wrestling, I really wanted to get the best experience I can really get anywhere else. So I was at a different school up in Worcester, Massachusetts, Wrestling Open for a little bit for that summer. And then I had transferred down to reality wrestling once the end of that summer was over. And I knew I was going to reality wrestling once I wanted to become a professional wrestler because of listening to Booker T's podcast. One thing, you ever listen to his podcast, first thing he's going to do is promote him some reality wrestling, right?
Of course, that's his brand, of course.
I was, you know, working in a bar at the time. I was in the kitchen, headphones on, doing research about the business, and I came across Booker's podcast. He was always talking about reality wrestling. So that spring break, I went to Houston. I wanted to see, you know, what Houston was like, what the vibe was, what the school looked like. This is when they were at the old building. And, you know, looked around, got to, you know, get a sense of the vibe there. I was like, you know what? Why not? You know what I mean? Because I would regret it if I don't come. For me, I just knew the history, knew the man who was, you know, who created the school in the sense of a 2-time Hall of Famer. I just had one of those epic moments where it's like, what can I lose and what can go wrong? So that's what brought me to reality wrestling, man. Just really wanted to challenge myself and to really bring the best version of myself out, as it is to be a professional wrestler or a sports entertainer. Because where else, right?
What was that move like? Because I'm from the East Coast,
Really?
so I'm in New Jersey. Okay. So moving to Texas and adapting to basically another, as much as I have pain to say Texas is a different country. What was exactly? What's the transition like moving from the East Coast going here?
I thought New York traffic was bad, bro. Yeah, they got New York beat. It's crazy. The transition was really, really smooth, surprising. So I, you know, packed all my stuff here in my 2005 Mazda 3, took the drive from Connecticut to Houston. And as soon as I got out the car, smelt the air, I was like, this is different. But one thing about me is I'm a chameleon. I can adapt anywhere I go. So, the culture here is different in the sense that everybody's polite. People smile. Like you walk in the street, people are going to say hi to you and hold the door open and all this other stuff. I'm like, thank you. You know what I mean?
Who are these people?
You know what I mean? Like people like, they're gonna, be a lot more. The Southern hospitality is really a thing down here. So that was, I'd say, the biggest
Absolutely.
culture shock. It was just how nice people are. But I adapted pretty quick. I got here in August, so one thing I did not adapt to is this heat. I got
Yeah.
here when it was
Yeah.
100-degree weather every day, and I immediately was like, "What am I doing? Like, like
That's what I
it's
wander
no
into.
rain, nothing. It's just heat every day. I'm starting my car just to get the AC going before I pull off. It was a little bit of a culture shock at first. I'm a year in now, so it's not, too bad. I'm a lot more accustomed to the city and to the lifestyle what Houston has to offer. But when I first got down here, for sure, the people, the traffic, and just the overall Southern hospitality, way Houston operates, so I say the biggest culture shock.
Okay, cool. Because I was thinking about that too when you started training within the first few months. And what was that learning curve like? Because you went to a different sport, and basketball is miles away from professional wrestling. What was that learning curve like, and how did you overcome that curve to really know what you're getting into in the wrestling business?
So one thing that really encouraged me, when I got into wanting to learn more about the business of professional wrestling, this was the first or second year that WWE was doing the NIL system. So me being a college athlete myself, I was like, okay, I don't know if I can get on their NIL radar, but what can be the next best thing? You know what I mean? So for me, doing my research was reality wrestling. Also doing my research is knowing how many basketball players, came from the sport and ended up having really successful careers. Like Undertaker was a basketball player. Big Show was a basketball player.
Right.
Dijak was
Yep.
Division III All-American. All these guys, Lash Legend played at Mississippi State. So there's basketball players in the business right now. It was just a matter of getting the best experience I can possible. So when I was at when I was at Wrestling Open, great guys, great trainers, great atmosphere to be around. But I knew that I could push myself more than what I was, if that makes sense. So I wanted to push myself to just different boundaries. I'd never been outside of my bubble of Connecticut for really, even in basketball. Like obviously you would go around for AAU and all that good stuff. For the most part though, my roots are in Connecticut. But I was, of the mentality at the time, I have to become, if I want to be really, really good at this, if I want to be better than average, I have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And just this move alone was uncomfortable. So my first week or two at Reality of Wrestling, one of my trainers is Ryan Davison. And I think the second or third class I had with him, he cussed me out, which was like my welcome to Rome moment.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Explain.
Oh,
Explain.
yeah. It
Hold
was a
on.
nice little beans and potatoes cuss out, too. So it was like.
Okay.
Essentially, though, I was trying to. One thing in wrestling is big no-no is you don't do a move you don't know how to do. Obviously, you can, hurt somebody and it can be really, really bad. So I was trying to put in a whole clover leaf. Didn't look crisp, didn't look smooth, whatever. And when the drill was done, he was just like, let me think. You break stuff down. He's like, yeah, this happened. And then, oh yeah, you're trying to put people in knots and you don't know what the F you're doing. I'm about to tell people. I'm like, oh, like, whoa, okay. Like this is like cursing me out like he's one of my old college coaches. And I got in the car that I remember after that class, I sat in the parking lot for about 25 minutes, and I was like, what did I get myself into? You know, because it's no going.
Right.
I'm here now. It's no going back. So my first 2 months, you know, I'm going to the advanced classes. I'm going to, you know, working with the guys who already have matches, thinking that I'm ready to have a match. Granted, I've only been training for 3 months, 4 months. So,
Right.
you know, I was the most athletic guy at my prior school. So I'm thinking that makes up for a lot. And no, like reality wrestling is not about, you know, coming in here and doing a whole bunch of, you know, moves and doing stuff that, you know, may, you know, just doesn't look up to par. It doesn't look like a TV star. It doesn't look like, you know, something that people can look at and go, wow, we need to watch reality wrestling to look at him. You know what I mean? Because we have a deep, deep roster. And my first
Right.
couple months there, I had to get humbled quick because it's a deep roster. Everybody's coming for the same.
Yeah.
Everyone's coming for the same spot. And I needed to be ready for what I wasn't even expected to be ready for. So yeah, my first 2 months there was a crazy learning curve, but you know, with that being said, I also have some of the best trainers and vets in the world that, you know, on my worst days there, they'll pick me back up. They'll tear me back down just to pick me back up. Um, all the guys there, all the trainers there. So yeah, my first few months that fall, when I got there in August to when I debuted in January, that period was just very humbling for me. I'm grateful for it. And I could definitely say that, you know, the work's not done, but I'm very grateful for the move that I made here for sure.
And you sense your progress as you go through that training
Right,
too.
right. Because I mean, just everything's so microscopic at reality wrestling. Like, if your boots aren't tied on right, they're gonna say something about it. You know what I mean? Like, everything needs to look appropriate. You know, because if you look at who owns the school, Booker T, yes, he's, you know, a 30-year vet, but the only thing he knows for the
Right.
most part is, think about it. Yes, he was in the Global Wrestling Federation. Global Wrestling Federation was on ESPN. WCW was on Turner Network. WWF, he signs, you know, then transitions to WWE. So he's on cable television for over 30 years. So the only thing he knows is the correct way to do things.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say just seeing that progress and trusting the process, even through the days I'm sitting in the parking lot, like I don't want to be here. But those are the days that you need. Those are the days, you know, when you're walking in the gym and you're looking at the banners of who's, you know, gotten contracts of the days that you don't want to be there is very motivating. So seeing my progress in the ring, seeing my progress emotionally, mentally, it's been really, really rewarding. And I'm very grateful for it.
And I was thinking too, now that Booker has been in this
Mm-hmm.
conversation, what was your first impression of him when you started training?
I was like, yeah, he's as advertised. I'll say that. You know, I mean,
Okay.
so
Okay, that blew my mind. Okay.
he's as advertised. So I got to think. My introduction of Booker T wasn't even him as a wrestler. I started watching wrestling when I was in, how old was I? Had it been 2011. The earliest memory I have of Booker T was him on a SmackDown commentary desk. Um, so
Okay.
I didn't even know he was a wrestler until he went and did a Royal Rumble spot. And I was like, whoa, Booker T is whoa, what? You know what I mean? Like, and granted, like, I'm still, you know, trying to understand wrestling as a kid, whatever. But my whole time being a wrestling fan and admiring the business, Booker T was one of those guys that you couldn't help but, you know, appreciate, especially myself as a black man, and just be a fan of because of his personality and, you know, him actually holding gold as a champion and representing what a champion looks like. When I first met him
Right.
and hearing the expectations he has for his students, not let alone me. The expectations he has for me is completely, you know, the same he has for everyone. His students have to pass the smell test. So shaking his hand for the first time, that was the talk I got was, okay, what are your goals? Right. First thing he asked me, what do you want to do out of this?
Mm.
All right. Next thing he asked me, all right, well, everyone tells me that answer. So what are you going to do to separate yourself?
Right.
I was just like, deer in headlights.
That is so profound. That is so profound. I would have been like, excuse me?
Deer in headlights. And he was like, well, you came to the right place. You know what I mean? So that's just how he thinks. You know what I mean? This is my first introduction to him. I was like, yeah, this is Booker T. But on the flip side, he just expects reality wrestling wouldn't be where it is right now if he didn't think or try to bring the best out of his students every day. So, like when I tell you we'll be training, whatever, he'll stop training and pinpoint the most I'll tell you a little story. I was watching a lot of the vets train one day. It was like Ninja Mag, Brian Keith, Ryan Davison, whole bunch of the guys. They were just training. And Booker yelled, "Hey, Ryan, stop doing that. Stop doing that." I had no clue what this man was talking about. Like, I'm sitting next to one of my class. I'm like, what did he do? I'm like,
you're trying to figure out what
like,
it is. You're
I
trying to
even
figure it
asked
out
Ryan,
too.
I'm like, yo, what did he play on? I was like, what was it? Like, like, help me understand. But Booker's just one of those guys. And just because, as I told you before, he's just done this for so long that everything just has to be correct. If it's not correct, then it's not presentable. You know what I mean? This is not something that he can co-sign, or it's not something that he can put it, give his word to. So just like I said, before I even debuted, that fall period of just getting to pick his brain, shut up and listen, see him, maneuver and work one of the best, if not the best, independent promotions, TV promotion out there. It's been a pleasure. It's been a real good pleasure. And I'd say Booker, man, he's just one of those ones that you just got to shut up and listen to, because we got to say in that reality wrestling, Booker's always right. So
You mentioned going into your debut. Do you remember what your debut was, and how much of your training has accumulated to doing your debut at reality?
Yeah, man. So my debut was really out of left field. Like that day, I wasn't sure I was gonna debut or not. I was just like, I'm gonna bring my stuff just in case. Another reality of wrestling saying is always bring your gear. That's how Booker won his first TV championship, because he bought his gear and somebody else didn't. So that day I just so happened to have my gear on. And then, Booker and Kevin and Brad, they gave me the Iggy. They were like, "Hey, you're debuting tonight." I was like, "Oh, really?" Like, I didn't think they would come, because I'm just always just stuck in the rotation of training. Even, me being a basketball player, you go to practice, you're expecting a game, at the end of the week, or some day you practice on a Monday, Tuesday, you got a game Wednesday, practice Thursday, Friday, you got a game Saturday. Like, so the schedule. For me, I'm going to this gym, 2-3 days a week, staying in shape in between. And I'm like, is this day ever gonna come? Like, am I ever gonna get a match? And as soon as I stopped thinking about it, hey kid, it's it's time to debut. So I just remember that day, the main thing that was going into my mind was just make them want more. You know what I mean? Make them want more. My match was like a 3-minute challenge, a beat the clock challenge or whatever. And within that time, I just wanted to make people, even in the locker room, even, the crowd, of course, Booker and all the guys that, make reality wrestling happen. But I wanted to leave a taste in people's mouth that, okay, this kid is here to be a player. And, when I got back to the curtain, first thing Booker said, he just gave me the nod and was like, "You impressed me tonight." And that's really hard to do. You know what I mean? This is a guy, 30 years in the business, probably even seen more wrestling matches than the average guy. So once I got that nod, and I hopped in the shower and was like, okay, now we're here now. You know what I mean? So yeah, that debut was really, really special, because I wasn't expecting it, but I was ready. And for me, since that day, one of my main mottos has been luck happens when hard work meets opportunity meets preparation. And the opportunity came into my lap, and I just stayed ready for my time to debut. So that's all that happened.
And as each of your matches, as you go through doing these tapings after this period of
Mhm.
training, what have you learned with each ring appearance that you've done as you started to really get into the deeper parts of your training at reality?
Yeah, man. So two things I learned. I'll give you the good, and then I'll give you just me being really microscopic. So good things I learned about my
Okay.
matches so far was number one, how much I've been able to constantly leave people going, huh, okay, that kid's got something. You know what I mean? Like, it's very, once again, we're both, we watch a lot of wrestling, right? And there's a bunch of people, we see on TV respectfully, and, we're just not interested. Or, when some guy or gal's interest comes on, we go to the bathroom. You know what I mean? I remember after
Mm,
I'm in my rookie year now, and a lot of the times what's happening is after my shows, people are coming up to me asking for pictures and saying, hey, like, great job out there. And hey, like, keep it up. Like, I can really see you doing something. Getting that affirmation, and that positive feedback from, even not only the fans, but my peers, which is really, really encouraging. Um, so that on that side has been really, really great in the good part. Um, the microscopic part and the scary part is, yes, I'm in my rookie year. A lot of people are giving me a lot of good feedback and all of that stuff, but I have so much room to grow, not only, with my skill set, with my move set, with my character work, with my promos, all that other stuff. And like, for me, I just can't wait to see where I take this. I'm embracing the process, and it's very hard, not very hard, but it's very difficult to love the grind of something that you do. You know what I mean? Especially like the
mm.
long days, you know, the long road trips. All this. It's hard to enjoy it, but for me, I've enjoyed every rep of it. I've enjoyed every time I hit the rope. I enjoyed every bump. I enjoyed every boo, every cheer. You know what I mean? So for me, I would say the good, part in terms of to answer your question, like the good has been the feedback. You know, I mean, watching my matches and reading the comments or coming out the curtain, coming to the back or coming, to the crowd after the shows and just hearing people go, yeah, man, you did that tonight. That just shows me, okay, my work is paying off. And then microscopically, to that other point, I just have so much more to grow that I haven't even scratched the surface of what I'm about to be like in a few years. Humbly, I say that because I'm in my rookie year. What I mean? So
Right.
for me, that's where the motivation kicked in is, okay, just got to keep going. Just got to keep going. I'm getting that feedback, both positive and negative. You just got to put one foot in front of the other and we'll see, God willing, where this takes me.
What was the advice? And we talked about with Booker a few minutes back. What was something profound that Booker gave you as wisdom, whether it's in training or doing your in ring stuff? What was that one piece of wisdom that he gives you?
That you can't be the best anywhere else if you're not the best in reality wrestling.
Mm,
It's simple. We look at all the guys who got contracts that came from reality wrestling. At some point, they were either champion or they were undeniable. You know what I mean? So
right.
reality wrestling for me is a special place because iron sharpens iron here. If that makes sense. Like I've been blessed to have some of the
Yes.
best vets in the world. Obviously a two-time Hall of Famer, in my back pocket to pick, their brain. But the biggest thing Booker told me, my first day, this is the very first piece of advice he gave me, no matter, all the things since then he said, the first day he met me was, look, kid, what you gonna do? Separate yourself because you got to be, the best here before you be the best anywhere. And I just had that approach every single day since August 21st. You got to be the best at reality wrestling. How can I be the best? What can I do, to keep people invested in Quentin Wynters? When people hear the executive decision, do they believe it? If if I claim to be the attraction that I am I backing it up? Am I doing everything right? You know what I mean? Like I'm yet to hold a championship in reality wrestling, so I can't consider myself the best yet. Um, until that happens, and we still got work to do. So
And especially now that. It's interesting, like, to set yourself apart. Like, what have you come across and what have you learned to be at that position to set yourself apart from the other wrestlers at Reality?
Yeah, so really this summer taught me a lot about that. I got to take a chance this summer to sit back and really, really watch the product. You know, because my debut happened in January, and I was on every show until May. So I was in my like happy to be here phase. You know what I mean? Like it was one of those things like, oh my God, like I'm finally here. It's great. This summer I really got a chance to just sit back, watch everybody, and listen to the greats. You know what I mean? Listen, like obviously we have a bunch of Hall of Famers, including Booker, who come in the back, in and out of reality wrestling. A bunch of vets that's been doing this 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, 30 years. And I just sit back and watch, okay, why are the crowd so invested in these people? You know what I mean? Why, if I want to be the best here, then I need to make the executive decision, all pun intended, to be one of the players that are going to turn heads, that are going to be one of the players here that are undeniable in terms of if a championship is up for grabs, there's no other person that's even viable for this opportunity and to capture it other than me. But in order for that to happen, I got to walk or crawl. I got to see and analyze what talent here has to offer. I got to really, really invest in the product and really lock in on how I can be a main piece here rather than a piece. You know what I mean? I didn't really come here to waste my time, respectively. I came here to be one of the best to ever do it at reality wrestling. So for me, to answer your question, how I've been able to separate myself, honestly, has been just sitting back and realizing what this product lacks and where I can insert myself so much into. So whenever that next, big opportunity comes, I know I'm gonna be ready for it. Like I got a chance to really sit down and dissect this roster one by one. So I'm ready for any and all comers at this point. And I can't wait to get back in that ring and show everybody why.
And what is your personal favorite match that you've done with a lot of the hard work that you're doing in your training? What was that one match that you went, oh, okay, this is pretty good?
That's a good question. I would say I'll give you two off the top of my head. And they were actually the past two matches that I had. So we had these breakout shows, right? At Reality Wrestling. And my match I had with the Savage King was my best match yet for sure. It was a losing effort, but for me, granted, like you said earlier, with my debut to where I'm at now, I got a chance to look back at that match and go, okay, I can see, I'm hanging with the big dogs now for sure. And I'm holding my own at this point. The last televised match I had too, as well, which was the ladder match, 6-man ladder match. I was in there with all former champions. I was the only rookie in there, granted, but as I'm watching myself, as I'm watching the product more, and as I'm watching my development, between comparing those two matches, the ladder match and the match I just had with Savage King, I'm swimming with sharks. You know what I mean? And you can,
Okay.
I'm swimming
Right.
with sharks right now, and I'm in my rookie year, and I'm holding my own. So my biggest thing between those two matches is building on top of it. Obviously, I've learned a lot. I don't take losses. I'll take lessons. And I've learned a lot over these past 2 months. And I would say each and every time I've had a match, I'm a scholar at this point. So yes, there's still a lot more room to learn. Yes, there's still a lot more room to grow. I don't have gold on my waist yet, but I'll be damned if I go into this next year and I'm not one of the top contenders at reality wrestling. Just because the work that I put in is undeniable. My hunger, my drive, like this isn't. I didn't come. I said it before. I'm gonna say it again. I didn't come here to waste my time. So my favorite matches so far have, to your point, all been against top contenders. And picking Maven out of my gym didn't even help. That
That was, I saw that was It's like it's like karma. Karma showed up at that point. And I was laughing. And I never knew it was you because I was like, I saw Maven get out of the ring. I'm like, oh wow, that's karma. Not knowing I'm interviewing you, who's eliminated Maven, who he himself eliminated Taker. It's crazy.
Undertaker's my guy, so I had to get him up out of there for him.
Have you ever tried going outside of reality and just testing the waters on getting bookings, or is that something that you're still trying to improve to get to that point, or I've already taken bookings outside?
Yeah, so this summer, like I said, this is my first time this summer getting a chance to work outside of reality wrestling. So I went back home to Wrestling Open and had a match there. I'm looking to be back there in the holiday season for sure. I got a chance to work a little bit with small Houston promotions as well, just to get those reps. But granted, yes, I'm in my rookie year, which is why I'm so excited for what's next. Granted, most rookies don't get a lot of bookings outside of their main territory. If I'm not, I could be wrong. I can be completely wrong. But most rookies usually stay in their dome. I'm looking forward mainly to the wrestler, the sports entertainer that I am for reality of wrestling in the next 6 months to a year to 2 years, 3 years, and letting the bookings just come. Because like I said before, I can't be the best anywhere else before I'm the best here. So I know those bookings will come. I know that I've been doing the networking. I've been shaking hands. I've been, one of those guys that promoters have their eyes on for sure. It's just a matter of, like I said earlier with my debut not too long ago, preparation and opportunity. I'm just preparing right now for those moments because I know once they come, they're not going to stop.
And I'm thinking about when you do take those bookings outside of reality, how much of that training has pretty much stayed with you?
For sure.
When you do book.
For sure. I'll give you an instance too. When I was at Wrestling Open, everybody, granted, it had been almost a full calendar year since I left. And after that match, I got to the back and everybody was like, just impressed as far as how quickly I picked things up. You know what I mean? Everybody was like, wow, like we remember when you left and how you left. And then you came back and it was like a whole different guy. Even when I'm in training and we have people, coming from out of state just to come train with us, and guys will be like, yeah, I'm 2, 3, 4 years in. 2, 3, 4 years in somewhere else isn't 2, 3, 4 years in at reality wrestling. It's just not. It's the different training. It's different attention to detail. It's just different. So even when we have, different guys come in, I'm getting a chance to roll around with different guys. I see the difference already with what I do in training and what I was able to do when I went back home to, what's being presented to me with the guys who have experience. So I've definitely gotten a chance to see, back to your earlier question about progress, of how quickly I've gotten to progress within this sport. And I'm just looking forward to it, man. I'm like I'm like a tiger in a cage that's ready to rip it open, because it's just like I can feel something in my gut, something special coming, and it's just I'm just waiting for that opportunity. It's back to basketball. I'm just waiting for my number to be called.
Yeah, because I was thinking about that too. Because from what I'm hearing too is those promoters who are outside of reality, they sense something different whenever you try to work with them. That's how I'm hearing it, because they were like, "Oh, this guy's okay. He's in reality. Okay, I'll give that a shot."
Exactly. Because we're a little bit spoiled at reality wrestling in the sense of we're on TV, so we get TV reps. That's all we know. So, but mainly my training, at Wrestling Open, which is on IWTV, and with reality wrestling that has almost 1 million YouTube subscribers, being in front of a camera, especially with basketball, is really all I know. So a lot of those guys, on the indies, they don't get TV reps until year 2, year 3, some year 5. You know what I mean? So I've been definitely blessed in that aspect, just to have been set up and to set myself up for the opportunities that I've gotten so far. And I made my debut in January. I stepped in reality of wrestling doors little over 10, 11 months ago, and excuse me, a little over 15 months ago. And man, this has been a blessing so far, and I just can't wait, for the future. We're very, very new into this, and I just can't wait to see what's next come.
So throughout that time with your goals, and you kind of mentioned it earlier in the episode, if you want to like expound that, like what are you looking forward to now that the year is almost close to an end? What are you looking forward to? Not the years for the rest of the year in your career.
For the rest of the
year for 2024.
2024, I want people going into 2025 looking at Quentin Wynters and going, yeah, he'll be champion at the end of this year. Like undeniable. We only have a few more months in a year. And for me, my biggest thing we're about to be in October, November, December, is everyone looking at me like, okay, he's next. He's next. And we all should know it by now. I don't call myself the executive decision for nothing. It's who I am. I came here to be a top contender and to be a top player. And for me, the rest of this year is devoted to making sure that everyone who sits in those black chairs at Reality of Wrestling knows that. If they don't already know, then they sure will soon enough, because the executive decisions coming, baby, for everything.
We'll end our conversation with this. And if you're at a wrestling show and you work an event, whether it's in Reality or some other promotion that you're working with that night, and someone approached you, of course they'll say good job. Of course, they better say that. Hopefully they don't do anything weird. But to have them ask this, for them to ask this to you, where can I start being a wrestler? What would you like to talk to them about? Being a wrestler.
So number one, obviously you gotta go to wrestling school. When I first got into wrestling, that was my biggest thing, was like, how the heck do you become a professional wrestler, right? Obviously you gotta go to wrestling school. My biggest advice to anybody who wants to become a professional wrestler is find the school that is going to push you to become your best. Whether that's a Reality Wrestling, which has been a complete blessing to be at, which, they're top tier, and everyone in the country who's a wrestler knows this promotion. Whether it's, you're up north, whether it's Florida, whether it's California, Oregon, the Midwest, whatever. There are Hall of Famers and there are creditable people out here with school. Do not go to a school where you are going to feel comfortable. Here's an old quote, a coach told me. If you walk in the gym and you're the best player in the gym, you're in the wrong gym. Go somewhere that is going to make you be stupid uncomfortable, right? For me, that was Reality of Wrestling. For someone else, that may be something else, someplace else, some other country, who knows? But as I said in the beginning of this interview, I had to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I needed to be, put out literally into a different region of the country in order to grow into the person that I am today. Now that might not be your story, but my story is a little bit different. So to answer your question, like I said, I'm telling somebody after a show, how or where do I become a professional wrestler? Number one, do your research. And number two, if you're training and you're looking around and you know you're the best person in the gym, or you know you're the best person at the school, it's time to find another school, at least among your class. If you know you're the best among your class,
right?
We got some, we got to be around people that are going to be able to push us. So I would just say that I get that every day at Reality of Wrestling. I'm in there rolling around with 20-year vets, 10-year vets, 15-year vets. People who have done things in this industry. I haven't done anything yet, but people who have done things at the promotion that I'm at. So hopefully that answers the question.
Awesome. So I have nothing left to give. You have the floor. Thank you so much, Quentin, for having you on this second episode. And where can we find you if there's anything upcoming in the month of October? You have the floor.
Yeah. So Instagram, you can find me at The Real Wynters, WYNTER. Give me that green light, like, hey, let's see what you got, kid. So, the next time you'll see me is in a reality wrestling ring, and I just really can't wait to show you guys what the executive decision, to continue to show you guys what the executive decision has off, as I really rep and prepare to be a top contender here for real.
So we'll end our conversation here. Thank you so much for watching and listening on this episode of Crash Course, and we're on to the next one. Bye.
Appreciate you, dog.